All right, and so what I wrote at the top, mostly we're going to practice today. What I wrote at the top is the procedure for simplifying square roots. So you're going to either take your root card, or I have a nice compiled list for you at the top. And what we're going to try to do is we're not going to type in the square root of 40. We're going to try to pull out a perfect square, the largest perfect square. And so what you're first going to do is you're going to find the largest number from the list of perfect squares that divides evenly into 40. And the largest number that does, if I'm looking through here, okay, well, first of all, I can't even start there, right? Because 40 is smaller than that. The first one that does is 4. So what I did is I rewrote 40 as 4 times 10. Does that make sense so far? Do you agree 40 is 4 times 10? Okay. Then I'm going to separate my square roots, which I can do because they're multiplication. So I write it as root 4, or square root of 4 times square root of 10. Then, this is the part where we're going to simplify. We know one of these exactly. Which one? The square root of 4. What is the square root of 4? 2. So I take that out and I write it as 2 times the square root of 10. Today, the only thing you are going to use your calculator for is to see what numbers go in. We are not going to have decimals today. So let's do some. Do we all have a note-taking guide? So, would you look at your list? What is the highest thing on the list that divides into 45? 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this as 9 times what gives me 45? 9 times what? 5. Okay. I have not changed this at all because underneath my square root I have 9 times 5. 9 times 5 is 45. Now we can, I'm just going to break it apart. I'm going to still keep my square roots in. I have the square root of 9 times the square root of 5. We do not know the square root of 5, but we know the square root of 9. What is it? 3. So my simplified answer would be 3 times the square root of 5. Okay. Let's look at the next one. Can somebody tell me, from my list of perfect squares, we're going to try to pick the highest thing that goes into root 28, or into 28. 4 times what, Sean? 7. All right, here we go. So we're going to write this as the square root of 4 times 7. And now I'm going to break it apart. That's the square root of 4 times the square root of 7. Which one can I simplify?
4.
The square root of 4 is 2. So I'm going to write this as 2 times the square root of 7. All right, let's keep moving along. Now, here's one where I want to make sure I pick the largest from above there. I want to pick the largest number that goes in. And here's what I mean by that. 4 goes into 48, and that's a perfect square. There's something larger on the list. What is it? 16. I want to pick the largest one. All right. 16 times what? You can use your calculator to help this part if you want. 16 times what? 3. All right, so now I break it apart. The square root of 16 times the square root of 3 what would that simplify to be? Very good. 4 times the square root of 3. Okay. Next one. What do you think? Now 500 looks kind of large, but let's think what goes into 500. Audrey? 100 times 5. Here we go. We're going to write 100 times 5. Do you have to show me your setup? Yes. You have to show me the setup. Now, if you want to skip, if you're getting this, woohoo, yay, I know square root of 4 to take it out, that's fine. But you got to show me at least one in between steps. And that is, what things did you multiply to get that number? So 100 times 5, I separate it. The square root of 100 times the square root of 5. What is that? What's the square root of 100? 10. 10, is it 10 times 5? 10 times the square root of 5. Okay. Yep, in a minute. There will be. So let's try 180. Now, this is again another one where 9 does go in, but there's something higher. In a second, I'm going to show you if you don't pick the highest thing, how you're going to be able to figure it out later. Audrey? 36 goes in. 36 times what? 5. So we're going to rewrite this as 36 times 5. So the square root of 36 times the square root of 5. Which is what? All right. Would you try number 6 on your own, please? Write it down. I had this conversation again with somebody in first hour. I know how to do this. Listen, I've been teaching this class for 18 years. You can look and you can say, yep, I get how to do this. That is way different than writing it down and doing it on your own. Write it down. Please. Is it nicer if I say please afterwards? Got it? Just a second. All right, Audrey, what did you write for the square root of 44? So you did this first? Yep, and she said that simplifies then, because we know the square root of 4 is 2. This is 2 times the square root of 11. All right, questions so far? What I want to show you is I'm going to backtrack to number 5, and I'm going to show you in a different color what would happen if you made a mistake and you didn't pick the highest thing. So remember how I was saying, hey, I know that 9 times 20 goes, okay, so I just want to show you below what would happen. So let's say I did do 9 times 20 like this. Then you know the square root of 9 is what? 3. But here's how you check. When I checked all of these other things, 5, 7, 3, 5, 5, 11, we know those things don't have perfect squares left in them anymore. Look what's under the purple square root symbol. 20, right? Isn't there still a perfect square left? What is it? What perfect square goes into 20? What perfect square goes into 20 on the list? Four, right? So if I did this, I have 3 times root 4 times root 5. Isn't root 4 2? And 3 times 2 is 6. Hey, you get the same thing, 6 root 5. So if you forget to take the perfect square out, you'll have another opportunity to take it out. You can that's going to work for all of them. If you check underneath the radical and there's still a perfect square, then take another one out. Either way, it reduces to that. Okay. Square root of 63, what is that? Right, Audrey? Yep, I write it as the square root of 9 times 7, 3 times root 7. Yes. But is 90 on the perfect square list? But again, the goal is, can you do 90 times 2 to get 180? Yes. Is it going to benefit us to take perfect squares out? Nope. Okay. So in this lesson, when we're simplifying, I want you to pick the highest square root, the highest perfect square that goes in. All right, what about 16? What times what? Oh, I just gave it to you. Dang it. 4 times 8, but you should take out a 16. 16 times 2. So what does that simplify to? All right. Now, this is what I was talking about before. Don't get all freaked out because now I put variables in. I am going to simplify this as the square root of 9 times the square root of a to the 8th. So far, hopefully no questions. What's that? Do we know the square root of 9? It's 3, right? Now, before we're not taking the square root of 8. We're taking the square root of a to the 8th. A square root means something times itself is a to the 8th. What is it? What is the square root of a to the 8th?